Greeting everyone. The webinar will start shortly. We wait for a few more attendees. Thank you for joining the session today. My name is Frank, the Manager Consulting from CDSC. Today webinar we will discuss about the iVend receipt. So how the receipt is printed from the terminal box and how we can decide the receipt. So from the webinar we have a chat box or you can raise your hand to ask the question. For today's session, we go through very basic how the receipt is managed in the iVend and how we modify the receipt, but it's quite technical in the designer. So we will refer to another webinar to go this detail into the report. Okay, basically the iVend we support two kind of receipt. So the first one we call that is the XML receipt and the second one is the A4 receipt. Okay, so they are totally different kind of receipt and different technology to be used in decide the receipt and how it's print out. And there's some disadvantage and advantage for the option. Okay, so in your client, you should know exactly what is the meaning of the XML receipt and A4 receipt, so you can go with the way you want. Okay, the first one is the XML receipt. The reason we have a XML receipt because there are some of the features here. The first one is very important that the XML receipt we use the OPOS driver. Okay, so the OPOS driver is one of the tool from the hardware manufacturer they produce for the printer. It's quite similar with another driver when you connect the hardware into your machine. So it will have one of the library, one of the drivers, very special driver for this kind of device to for the software they can communicate with the hardware for the printer. Okay, so you need to install the OPOS utility from the manufacturer, from the printer. Okay, and you cannot see it from Windows driver list, Windows printer list because this is very specific for the printer. Okay, and the reason is using OPOS is some of the hardware include like Pro Display, Castro printer. We don't have a Windows drivers, and they have a very specific way to connect with the hardware. So it's have a must use OPOS driver. Okay. The OPOS driver is not provided from CTC, so you need to ask for the hardware supplier to install the OPOS. But if you want to go with the OPOS, you make sure that you can do the print test from the OPOS utility. So to make sure that the OPOS driver is working fine with your printer. Okay, the second features with the XML receipt is using XML code to decide the layout. Okay, so if you can see in the supermarket, is print out the small receipt and it's print very fast receipt, and there's no color, only black and white. So because of using the XML to decide a receipt, we have some object and we send the data into the object and print to the paper. Okay, the reason is print very fast because they send raw data. There's no color, there's no design, so it's also limitation in the design. Okay, you don't have many options in the XML designer. We just have a few of them, like how to make it both, to make it a bigger size. The second kind of receipt we call A4 receipt. A4 receipt, it doesn't mean that it must print in the A4 paper. Okay, but it means that it's using Windows printer driver. So you can go to the Windows, you can search for the printer. Okay, so on kind of printer here can be printed from the iVend. So it's using one of the default printer from your Windows printer here. So when you connect printer, you must install the Windows driver. So this one is totally different with OPOS driver. OPOS driver, you cannot see it here. With A4 receipt, it using one of the printer here. Okay. And to decide the A4 receive, you can use Crystal Report, or we can use the built-in designer of the iVend is the iVend Report Designer. So you can easy to decide whatever logic you want to build it to the receive. And when you decide the receipt is not only for A4, you can decide a small receipt, you can decide the A5 receipt landscape portrait. So it's up to you to decide the receipt by using Crystal Report or using iVend Report Designer. So the term of A4 receipt, it doesn't mean that it's print out on the A4. It's using just Crystal Report or the iVend Report and using Windows driver. Okay. That is two very basic concept receiving the iVend. So we have a designer tool. For XML, we have receive print format. This is the tool in the iVend to design the receive. But this kind of tool is not cover everything in the receive because all the information is not explored in this designer. So mostly we use the XML editor like Notepad, any editor you can open the XML and you can modify from it. And of course you need to know the object that can be called from the XML receipt. For the A4, you know you already have a Crystal Report and iVend Report Designer. Okay, we will go detail one by one how we try to use it. Okay. So in the iVend management console, when we set up the system, you need to define that this is the logic, how the iVend pick one of the receive based on this kind of configuration. So the first thing you define the POS in the management console. So let me open management console and it's under retail configuration and it's in the POS. When you define the POS here, you have hardware profile and you have a print profile to be assigned to the POS. If you're missing any of them, you cannot print the receipt. So this is the first thing you need to make sure that you assign the hardware profile and print profile. And the next one is in the print profile, you will have an option transit receipt print time. So in the print profile, you can assign that you want to print by XML or you want to print by A4, or even you can show printer selection. Okay, so let's go to print profile. We have a default print profile here and we have a transit receipt. So in the transit receipt here, you have a print type. So we have a three type is XML report, A4 report, and show printer selection. If we go with A4 report, that means it's print to the default printer. Okay. And if you choose with the XML report, it will print out the XML receipt, which one you decide. Okay. And here we have the layout for the format for your receipt. So if you go with the A4 report, you need to assign one of the report into the A4. And if you go with the XML report, you will assign the XML format here. Okay. And then another one is the hardware profile. So with the A4 receipt is automatic print to the default printer, but you need to set up the document printer into your hardware profile. So let's go to the hardware profile. We have a POS1. So in here, you must assign the document printer. This is one of the hardware registration you need to define here. So I create one hardware registration is a called as a doc. So in here, I just set up this is kind of document printer and you don't need to configure anything. Okay, just define one document printer and assign into the hardware profile. Okay, you don't have an option to assign which printer to be printed. It's automatic print to the default printer. Okay. And for the OPOS printer, you need to configure one of the receipt printer. This is also in under hardware registration. You create a new one. I call that the normally is a thermal printer. Epson, for example. So you choose the hardware is receive printer, pull receive or pause, and in the config. So from the config here, the device name, you must enter the device name which you set up in the OPPOS utility. Okay, so let me open my one of the OPPOS driver. So this is what I have from my supplier. So I set up one printer into the OPPOS utility. So I call this is the Temo U, this is the device name. So in this one, I must enter the same. So if you go with Epson or an SP, another printer, you have a different interface, different utility of OPPOS, so you set up the different way, but you make sure that you enter the same name in the OPPOS utility into the iVend configuration here. So it must be Temo U here. And click OK to save it. So we have a one hardware registration for the OPPOS printer, and you need to assign into the receive printer here. This one. So you click OK to save it. So you have a hardware profile. So let's go back into the POS. So you have a POS number 1. You already assigned the hardware profile and print profile. Okay, so that is what you need to set up for the printer, which one you want to go. Okay, so and the most important is how to decide the receive in XML and how to decide to receive in E4. Okay. Okay, then we go to the detail iVend transaction. The design of the iVend is we have a transaction in the POS, and in the transaction we have a different kind of transaction. In the same transaction we can have a many kind of type. For example, you can have a sale and refund in the same transaction. So we have a one object for the transaction for the header, and many charts for the detail. For example, we have a table for sale. Actually, sale and refund with the same table, but with the XML, you have a different object. We have another table for order, another table for payment, the table for layaway, then on kind of child information. And drill down, for example, the payment, we have a attribute, we have a many attribute information under payment tables. Okay, so this is the structure of one transaction receive. So that's why sometimes you can see that when you print out the receipt, you have the header information, the store, the POS, the cashier, the print date, and the total. But in the detail, you have a sale, few item for sale, few item for refund. That means you allow multiple transaction mode into the same transaction. Okay. And let's go to the XML receive, how to modify the XML receive. So this one I open directly into the system. It's under management console. Okay. For the XML, we have receive pin format here to decide the receive. So I will open the transaction receive, click edit. You can create the new layout if you want. And we have a button to design. Okay. So it will come up the designer screen. So we have a header, we have a sale item, we have a chain item, and when you select the tab here, is the detail will come in the left side. So you can drag drop the field you want to put into the designer. Okay, so this is very basic fields you can drag and drop to decide here. But if you want to go to in more advanced, so you need to come back with the XML code to explore another fields. Okay, so example, you can drag the field here, you can put in some of the column here. Yep. You can preview in this screen also. You select the receipt you want to preview, and it show the preview of the XML. So this is how it will print now. Okay. For more detail, I have another slide to explain how the XML receive can be done. But let's open one of the XML code. If you go with the XML tag here, okay. So this is how the XML code is for the XML designer. So you need to know the object, the transaction.store.address, address 1, 2, 3, and we have a transaction ID. So this on this field can be more detail can be explored under the XML code here more than in the user interface here, because you don't have a complete information on this screen. Okay. So if in this screen, you just click OK to save the layout you design here. Okay. And you have on the code is automatically generated in this screen. Whenever whatever you design in the screen is automatically generate the code here, or you can copy the code here, put into one of the XML editor to modify the information. So I copy and I paste here. So you can modify from here. Yeah. After you modify this one, you can copy it back and you put into this field. And you click OK to save it. Then click OK to save it. Yeah. So this is the way how you modify the XML receive. Okay. So let's open another slide to see very detailed how you can explore the XML receive. Okay. For the XML, we have a header, we have a detail, and we have a footer. Okay. We have a special note in the XML code. For example, it start with the document, it have a row, it's a barcode. But actually, you don't need to remember everything from here. You just start with the default XML code and you modify what you need to change, because there's quite complicated the XML code here to remember. So if, for example, you want to print the logo, you need to copy this line and put into the XML code. So let me copy this one. I go to XML, I put into the logo somewhere here. Yeah. So this is how you print the logo. Yeah. So you have the logo is always start with the PNP file, and it must put into the local terminal in C drive, for example. Yeah. In the default of XML code, we already have an image file here, but it's blank. So you just fill in the part of the logo. You can put it here. Yeah. So with this document, I try to list out on the possible object can be explored by XML receive. For example, to get the user information. So it starts from the transaction.user.firstname.lastname. Yeah. So you need to know this kind of object to be printed on the receive. So for this webinar, I don't go very detailed on kind of the object, because this will be a very long document here. Mostly the partner, you will raise the question on the forum, which object you can explore, for example, to print out the transaction audit, for example, the comment or the recent code, and I will support you to get in the object. This is example. Yeah. To print out the transaction audit, we have a enumerator for the transaction.audit, and then you can print out the comment and the recent code. Well, that is for the XML receive. And you know, using the XML receive is print very fast, but the design is quite not friendly for the interface. Then we go with the A4 receive. For the A4 receive, you can use the Crystal report, or you can use the iVend report designer. In the previous version, we use the Crystal report, but in from 6.4, we move on kind of report receive into the iVend report designer. Okay. So normally you will start with the default A4 receiving the iVend. You will export it and you can modify from it. And how to export and import the report, you can go to application setup and report manager, use search for the transaction receive, and you can export it. For example, you can export into the transaction receive in somewhere in the desktop. Okay, the first step you need to export the standard receive, and then you can modify it. You go to reports, report designer. It will open the designer, and you go to file, you go to open, you browse into the one you exported. Is the file extension is IRT, that is iVend report. So in here, this is the detail of the receipt, and you should prefer another webinar to see how to build, how to use the iVend report designer. But in here we have a header information, we have a detail. So of the detail, we have a different sub-report. For example, sale item, we have another sub-report. Quotation, we have a different sub-report. So to modify it, normally you will add some more fields, some more logic. So you go to dictionary and you go to data source and you open transaction detail, you right click and click edit. So it's open with the query. So because it is very small screen, so normally you copy the query and you put outside into uh, the Visual, the Microsoft SQL Studio. So you add the new field, you change the logic from here, and you copy it back into the designer. Okay, because it's currently is using one of the parameter is the transaction key here, so you cannot execute the query if it show the error. Okay. So if you want to try to debug the code, you can declare one of the parameter here, and you set the value here, and you can run it. We show the information there. If you have a change some logic, you add some new field, you make sure that your query is working fine. So you need to try to run from here. So let me pick one of the receive. So one of the table you need to where is the transaction. This is the header. So it will show on the transaction from here. So let me try to print the transaction number 3. The transaction key is 08. So you put it here. You execute it. So you see, this is the information we can get from. Okay. So if everything is working fine, you need to remove the line for the debugging, and you copy it back into the designer. Yeah, and you click OK to save it. If you have a new column and you click retrieve columns, the new column will be appear here. Okay, so this is for the header. For the child, the same. You can go to the, this is sale item, so you can right click on the sale item, you click edit, and you can copy the query from here. You put into the screen, and you try to execute this one. So the same, you cannot run this one because they have a parameter here. So you need to get one of the temporary lines here. You put into your query and you can run it. So for the transaction number 8 here, you can see this is the sale, this is the product ID, description, quantity, and if you want to modify something, you want to see the data, you can execute. And after that, everything you already modified, you remove the testing one, and you copy the query, you put it back into the editor screen, and you click OK. So the same, you can retrieve if any new column is coming. Okay. So after you modify your receive, for example, I try to modify a bit, move in the label from here to there. Yeah. And you click OK to save the one you are working on. So it will save into, can be another IRT file. So I can say this is transaction receive version 2. So after you save it, you need to upload back into the iVend. So you go to the go back to the application setup, report manager, and you search for the transaction receipt, and now you click edit. And in the report part, you browse into the version 2, you just finish it. So you select this file. For the transaction receipt, you don't need the XML files because only one parameter is transaction key, so you don't need to have a XML. Must remember that the report XML here is just the XML for the report parameter. It's not the XML report, XML receipt. So the XML report file is totally different with the XML code here. So don't get confused with one. Then click OK to save it. After you restart the POS, the new receipt will come up. Okay. So that's one how we export, modify the iVend report, and you import back into the transaction receipt. And the second one is the Crystal report. Okay. By default, the report in Crystal you can file is under installation folder. So now is we have a program files, we have a CD sheet, we have a demo stack, the one I'm using. We have a management console and Crystal report. So all kind of old version of the reports you can find from here. So from here you can see that you have a transaction receive.abt here. You can copy this file and you can modify on this. Okay, so I have one of them is already open in the screen. Okay, so this is for Crystal report. It's quite similar with iVend report designer, but actually it's different technology. But the designer and everything is quite similar. We also have a sub-report for sales, sub-report for quotation, sub-report for refund. If you want to modify, you can right-click from here, database export, then you right-click on the comment, you edit comment here. The same, you copy the script here into the SQL Management Studio to modify the query, and you copy it back into the screen. And for sub-report, you need to double-click and go to detail of the sub-report, and you modify the query. So you right-click on the query, you can copy this one and you put into the the SQL Studio, and you can, if you try to execute it, you can put the transaction key into this one, so you can run it. But remember, after you test, you need to put it back the parameter here, because otherwise it doesn't work on in the Crystal report. So this is the parameter. Then you copy it back, you modify something, you put it back into the screen, you click OK. So for testing, you can put the value in the screen. Click OK to save it, and you can preview. Okay. So currently I keep the default of the layout from here. And you see the barcode here. The barcode here is actually just one of the font. So make sure that you install the barcode font in on your machine, so you can select the barcode. For example, I select the Arial one, is become a value, the normal text. But if you change to the barcode font, and then you can see it's displaying the barcode. Yeah. Okay. So the same way, after you save the Crystal report file, you go to back to the iVend, you go to the report manager, and you find transaction receipt, you click edit. In the report part, now you browse in the new Crystal report, you have a done transaction receipt here. So you just click OK to save it. Okay, so meaning that in same screen, you can upload both Crystal report or iVend report designer. So it shows the error message because the files is still open, so you cannot upload it. I need to close screen, and I need to upload again. Yep, it's done. So even for both iVend report designer or Crystal report, you upload from same screen in the report part here. Okay. Okay, another example is normally for the retail business, you print small receipt, not A4. but you want to use the crystal report and you want to design very nice layout with the logo, everything. So using crystal report, you can design the small layout like this. Yeah. So normally the size of the paper is only 80 mm. So you can decide it's in very small. Everything we change to very small. Yeah. So the same way you can upload the small receipt into the report here, or you can create the new transaction receipt here. Receive small, for example, and then now you browse the path here into the small receipt. You click OK. The XML is automatically generated. Click OK. The same error that is still open. I click close crystal report and click OK again. Yep. Now we have a new transaction receipt in the small size and in the A4 size using crystal report, and some of the machine you want to print small, some of the machine you want to print in A4. So in the print profile, you will create a new print profile. This one is the default one. I create a new one. And I add this one is the transaction receipt. I choose the A4 report and the report ID. I will select the transaction receipt small. Okay. This field available only in 6.5.5. In the older version, you don't have this information. So we have only one report layout in the report manager for the receipt. Okay. So you can say this is the small receipt. I click OK to save it. Okay, so I have a two print profile. So if you create a new POS, I create the POS2. I will assign a hardware profile. Of course, I need to assign the hardware profile into for the default one. The print profile, I select the second one, small receipt. So in the POS2, if you print out the small receipt, POS1 is print the A4 receipt. Yeah, you need to select store. Click OK to save it. Yeah. So different POS, different store, you can have a different layout. Okay. Just last thing I want to highlight is in the print profile, we have an option of transaction receipt here. We can see XML report, A4 report, and show printer selection. If you go with show printer selection, it means that it so include the OPOS printer and Windows driver printer. So it's not only for Windows printer, A4 printer, it's also include the OPOS. Yeah. So today's session, I just focus to explain how the iVend getting the receive and how what is the options we can use for the receive, and you will go with which one is will better for you. For example, if you consider between iVend report designer and crystal report, just if you go with crystal report, is quite familiar with the technical guy for the developers. It's quite easy to decide. But beside that, we have a problem that crystal report doesn't support by iVend for some of the features like scheduler. If you want to schedule to send the email receipts to send the email report, it's only support for the iVend report designer. It doesn't support crystal report. Okay. So that is just information for you guys to make sure to choose which one you want to go. And we have a time for question and answer. Feel free to ask me the question. I have a question. I have a question from David. That are you able to share the PowerPoint? Yes, David. I will send you two PowerPoint slides. For the one I explained here and another one for the XML receive. So I hope through this webinar you have a clear understanding about the receive. Of course, for the more detail, you need to refer to more detailed in the designer. I have a question from Div that why don't we have a different template report for different transaction type? Yeah, the reason is in one transaction we can have a multiple type. Yeah, that's why we in the default of the report we compile all the transaction type into one layout, but with the crystal report or iVend report designer, you can have a grouping by transaction type, and in each group, each session group in the crystal report, you can have a different layout. Okay. So I mean, you can play around in the crystal report designer in one layout, but in one crystal report file can be displayed in different layout by using grouping. Yep. So thank you everyone. If you have any questions so far, we can go to the forum. I will have you to answer you guys. And for diff, if you need want some of example to have a different layout in the transaction type, I can make one crystal report in example to for you. But please raise the question on the forum. I will follow up with you. There's a question from Jifania that why is it that we cannot have a delivery not attached as a follow-up to transaction receive? Uh, I'm not sure to understand your question, Jeff. Jeff, please raise the on the forum. I will go with you on the forum because I think you are asking about the XML receive and is in the follow-up of the XML receive. Yeah, I think you're talking about follow-up receive here. But if any problem, I will check and answer you in the forum. So thank you everyone. Have a good day and enjoy the session.